It's connecting now. It's preparing to live stream the meeting.
Kazana's on Zoom.
Well,
Oh, she's off now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Well,
Oh, she's off now.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to the body and welcome. Well,
Hi.
All right.
Oh, she's off now.
So,
Hi, everyone.
we are
Welcome
to the body and welcome. Well,
Hi.
all right.
Oh, she's off now.
So, we are welcome to the body and welcome. Well, we're live. Okay, so now that that's all figured out, welcome everybody to we're doing a second day Gullah Festival event, and we're just so happy to be here. Yesterday, we premiered a video on our Gullah Festival, the Gullah Festival website and the Gullah Festival Facebook page and on YouTube. And it was just a great event. It was just a wonderful time. And so we're just gonna get started with this chat. And so before we do that, I would just like to introduce who is here with me today. So joining me is Pazanta Byers. She's the past, one of the past Gullah Festival presidents. Pazanta, you can give everybody a little wave. And we also have Duran Westbrook. Duran is a board member and the voice that you hear on the other end of that Gullah Festival phone number every time you call. Wave to the people.
Hello.
And we have Reba Pazant. Reba is the one who is responsible for the Gullah Tours, and she is a board member and co-founder of the Gullah Festival. Give a wave.
Hi.
And last but not least, we have Charlotte Pazant Brown, who is a board member and past Gullah Festival president and co-founder as well of the original Gullah Festival of Beaufort, South Carolina. Wave to the people.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
All right, so let's just jump right in. So Charlotte, since we ended with you, we'll start with you. Let's tell us a little bit about how the Gullah Festival got started. You know, what was that meeting like? You know, who was there? How did it even come about?
I tell you, it was very interesting. It was a Memorial Day weekend, and it was a nice hot summer day. You know, end of May, and my mother and my sister Reba and my sister Lolita and a friend of ours, Marlena McGee, we were uh, at my sister's house, at Reba's house, and we were all bored, and we were trying to figure out what in the world could we do to make Beaufort more interesting that time of year. We started talking about how much fun it used to be when we used to have Decoration Day, and we didn't have that anymore, and there wasn't anything for Black people to really celebrate. And so we started throwing around ideas, and we decided that maybe we could do some kind of a festival. It was a lady who mentioned something to Mama in one of her civic meetings that she attends, that perhaps she could start some kind of a festival for Blacks in Beaufort County. And Mama just didn't really take that much interest in the idea at that time. But she told us, she said, you know what? It was mentioned to me before that perhaps we could do some kind of a festival. So then it was like everybody agreed to that. And it was like, well, what will we call it? And our sister Lolita was the one who said, let's call it a Gullah Festival. And so that's how it came about. And we all thought it was just a wonderful idea. And then, of course, Mom started talking about the fact, and we all agreed that we wanted it to be a festival that was more educational and informative and a way to preserve the history of the Gullah language, the customs, and the cultures, more so than just a chance to hang out and party on the weekend. And
Mhm.
so those were our goals on how we started that.
That is so interesting. And I think it's important for people to know how it started and that the purpose was to educate
Yes,
and enlighten people about the Gullah culture.
Yes.
Part of the festival that you also are responsible for is Lest We Forget. That is usually off-site and, at another location, usually at a church,
yes.
but for 2 days of the festival. Tell us a little bit about Lest We Forget and what that is.
Okay. The Lest We Forget came about because once I moved down from the position as president, I wanted to make sure that the main goal that Mom started with education and preservation was something that was continued. And so I came up with the idea that perhaps that would be a good way to do it lest we forget, because it is too easy for people to forget history if
Yeah.
it is not documented
Mhm.
or somehow written down. And so the idea was to make sure that we would preserve. So we have panel discussions and we have presenters who come in during the weekend of the festival at one of the historical Black churches. Lately, it has been Grace Church on Charles Street, and we've had it at Tabernacle as well. And what we do with the presenters is we talk about things like uh, the preservation, the customs and the cultures of Gullah, the Reconstruction era, the Jim Crow era, ancestry and genealogy, medicines, the different kind of superstitious medicines, herbal medicines, and that type thing. And we also talk about Africa and the connection between Africa and Barbados to the Low Country Gullah people and the Native Americans, because they're all an important part of how Gullah came to be. And we also have panel discussions where we will have guests come in of maybe 4 or 5 people. For instance, we have the farmers, the Black farmers come in and tell
Yeah.
us how they survive as small Black farmers trying to make it in this world, small Black businessmen, and how they keep their businesses going, how they help one another. We also bring in law enforcement because that's very important. We try to make sure that we keep some connection to what's happening now. And of course, so with law enforcement, we've had lawyers, policemen, deputy sheriffs, everyone come in and tell their version of what it is like for them to enforce the law as a Black person with all of what is going on now and what their limitations may have been. We talk about old Gullah tales and old superstitions and folklore and things of that type. We talk about powerful women, young women, old women, how women have survived with babies, some with no husbands anywhere in sight. We've talked about the importance of education, what
Mm.
it was like learning in Black schools, and what the difference is, because in most Black schools we only got the used books that were getting ready to be thrown out
Mhm.
for us to learn from, as compared to the white schools who received brand new textbooks. Also, the fact that most Black high schools are now being they're disappearing, and so we're trying to find out what people are doing to preserve the history of their Black schools. And of course, we can't forget Black churches, how the
Oh,
music is in the Black churches, what the traditions and the customs are in Black churches. And we have a myriad of other subjects like large families. And we could go on, but we have a lot of different topics that we cover. Each year, the topics differ because we want to make sure that people have something a little different, a little fresh every time they come. But they're all things that we cannot ever forget as a part of our past because they make us who we are now.
Yes, and I think it's so important for us not to forget. So thank you for including that part of the festival, so people don't forget and they can continue to learn. And if you did not,
I'm sorry, but I'd like to make sure I add that the people, it's a small committee. The people on my committee who've helped tremendously are Alice Wright, Fred Washington, and William Bill Bailey. My son Bill Bailey. That's my committee, and they've done a fantastic job of making sure that we get our contacts together. Now, I'm done.
okay, and if you did not see the video that aired yesterday on the original Gullah Festival page, the website page, it's on YouTube as well, and it aired on Facebook. The video is still there. If you would like to hear more about Lest We Forget, a little more in depth, Charlotte does an entire segment about Lest We Forget. And so, go to the original gullahfestival.org. That's our website. And you can find us on YouTube and Facebook. That's the red and white logo. Look for the red and white logo. The G is in red. Okay, so just to continue, we're going to let's go to Reba. So now, Reba, you do tours for the Gullah Festival when we're in person. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we have not been able to gather together in 2020 or this year, 2021, because this is Memorial Day weekend. This is when we would all be at the festival. And people would be signing up for Gullah Tours and waiting in the hot sun to get on the bus, but they knew what was in store for them. So Reba, tell us a little bit about what you show the people and where you take them when you do the Gullah Tours in Beaufort, South Carolina during the Gullah Festival weekend.
All right. Well, hello everybody and welcome to Gullah Festival weekend. And I hope you enjoy the tour that you're about to take. And when we leave the property on the waterfront, we make a left turn on Reebok Road and we go down Reebok Road, and to the left, you can see the iron gates there on the left that designed by Africans. So you can still see the African design in the iron gates. And as we go down Reebok Road, you'll see these beautiful 2- and 3-story homes that face the water. Well, they face the water in order to get the ocean breeze, because years ago they did not have air conditioning. So they're there, and they a lot of the homes have twin stairs. One set of stairs were for the women and the other set of stairs was for the men. But of course, those were all white plantation owners who had those homes. So as we continue going on the tour, we are now on Reebok Road, named after John Reebok, who came to Beaufort. And then we go to Mather School. Mather School was formerly a school for the daughters of freed slaves. It was established in 1868. So from there, we go on down to the town of Port Royal, where Beaufort itself is a part of Port Royal Island. And the island is comprised of 107 different islands. However, a lot of the islands are uninhabited. There's one island, for example, that's inhabited only by monkeys. And they use that island to test monkeys for different purposes. But we go on down to Port Royal. And on the way down there, I will tell them about Parris Island, because Parris Island Recruit Depot is further down. It's too far to go to on the tour. But Parris Island was established, Black men could not train on Parris Island until 1949, because prior to that, President Theodore Roosevelt established that Blacks could join the military. However, they were still kept separate. And so the men had to train at Camp Lejeune, which was formerly Camp Jackson, named after Gilbert Jackson. And they only had tents. So they trained out there with the mosquitoes, the snakes, all of that in the hot sun, because they could not join the white military, not until 1949, when it was determined that Blacks could join the military, okay? And women were not able to train on Parris Island until 1958. And President Obama in 2012 declared that, because after Gilbert Jackson died, it was later called Montfort Point. And so in 2012, President Obama gave the Medal of Honor to all living Marines, whoever trained at Camp Jackson and Montfort Point. And so from there, okay, we go to the Naval Hospital. The Naval Hospital, the hospital itself was designed by a Black man, Benjamin Banneker. And on the property of where the Naval Hospital is, it used to be plantations. And the white owners had about 130 slaves on the different plantations there. And on that area, that's where we have the Emancipation Tree, we call it, because that's where the Emancipation Proclamation was first read on January 1st, 1883. Okay, and so we give them a tour of, there's a fort there as well as another camp. All of this was, during the Civil War. And so we take them from the Naval Hospital and we go across the bridge because, as I said, Beaufort is comprised of several islands. So as you can imagine, there are a lot of bridges, as you see in Donna's background, that beautiful bridge there, okay? So we go across to Ladies Island, and then there are different stories as to why it's called Ladies Island, but nobody really knows for sure, because some people say there are more ladies over there than men. But anyway, we go from Ladies Island, and we keep on driving. We go across several other bridges till we get to St. Helena Island. Okay. Usually when I do my tour, I speak in Gullah because a lot of people say, well, this is a Gullah Festival tour, we want to hear some Gullah. So I start talking in Gullah then, man, So anyway, we make we go from St. Helena, we go all the way down to Land's End Road, okay? And go when we get to Land's End Road, well, it's now called Martin Luther King Drive, because we always got to have to name things for we people. And so we turn on Martin Luther King Road, and there we see Brick Baptist Church. And then we go on, I'll tell you more about Brick Baptist Church later, but then we pass by Penn Center. Penn Center was the first school for freed slaves here on the East Coast, So they got a lot of history in there, man. I used to work over Penn Center because I used to be controller, for the Penn Center. And man, one of them time I was leaving work, but I was there by myself, and I was leaving work one evening. It was dust dark, and man, I see this woman sitting over there. And she asked me if she could have a ride. So I said, okay, I'll give you a ride. But I said I can only go as far as the end of the road because I ain't know where that lady lived. Man, that woman got in my car, and she scared me to death because when I look at her eyes been red, man. They've been bloodshot red. And it was a chill came over the car, Great God, I've been so scared. The speed limit on that road is 35 miles an hour. Man, I must have done 60. I got to the end of that road so fast and put that woman out my car, you hear me? And then the next day when I gone back to work and I tell my co-worker, I tell them about that woman. And the man tell me, you ain't know that lady been dead. I ain't know how many years. And oh God, just to know that I had that dead spirit in my car. Thank God. So all kind of things go over Penn Center, yeah. But it's also the place where Martin Luther King used to come a lot. Okay, because even later on had a house built especially for him, But the thing is, he died right before he was able to come and stay in the house. but they got a house over there called the Arnett House, where they say that that's where he wrote his "I Have a Dream" speech. You know, now I ain't know that for sure, but that's what they say. So I just tell them that too. So anyway, we go from we leave that side of Penn Center, and then we come on back to Brick Baptist Church. And Brick Baptist Church was built by the slaves. Okay, and then it's interesting how that church is, because it's amazing how even in that you got them separate, you know, because they got one side of the graveyard over there for white people only, you know, the former plantation owners. Then the other side is for the descendants of former slaves, you know, so they got them separate, even in death. So we leave from there, then we go on down to a prayers house, because you know the Gullah culture ain't just the way you talk, it's about the way you worship and you praise God too, you know. And man, we go to a prayers house, and I remember one tour we went in there. We had a good old time, man. We've been in there singing and clapping and everything, man. We had a good time. And so we leave the prayers house, and then we come on back on the road, and we go across the Beaufort Bridge. And the Beaufort Bridge is one of the only, I think about 3, either 5 of them bridges that when they open up, they don't swing up. They swing open, because they ain't got too many bridges swing open today, you know. And so the bridge swing open. And that's one of the few bridges that do that. And we're going down to where Robert Small's home site is. Robert Smalls was a Black man. He was a former slave who later became a congressman for the state of South Carolina. Okay, and Robert Smalls, what made him so famous was when he was a young boy, his mama sent, you know, got permission from his owner to send him to Charleston to learn a trade. And so he went over there to Charleston, and he learned a trade, how to be a harbor master, how to drive the ship and everything. The man teach him everything. So one night, Robert Small got him and his wife and some other people, and they commandeered this ship, and they brought it back to the harbor in Charleston, and they waved the flag and everything. They knew just what to do. And so because he turned the ship over to the Navy rewarded him with $1,500. You know, back in that day, $1,500 been a whole lot of money. So what Robert Small did, man, he came back to Beaufort, and the same house he grew up in as a slave, he bought the house. And not only did he buy that house, he bought the whole block. And so when we do the tour of the whole block that Robert Small bought. And then we come back and we go to our Tabernacle Baptist Church. That's another old Baptist church too. And it was established when it became separate from the Baptist Church of Beaufort, when 500 slaves left the Baptist Church of Beaufort, and they went and established the Tabernacle Baptist Church. And that church been there for, good Lord, now how many years? It must be 100, 130, 100, I know, a long time church there. And so right now there's a bust of Robert Smalls outside the church, as well as a monument that they're supposed to be building for Harriet Tubman. Because you know Harriet Tubman been in Beaufort too, because she had a bakery there for a while. But then she also helped at least 700 slaves to escape to freedom. That's what she did further up on the northern Beaufort end, called the Combahee River. And she helped about 700 slaves to escape. And then we go from Tabernacle Baptist Church, and we go to the National Cemetery.
I just have to say, hold on. It sounds like they get a tour full.
Yes, they do.
Oh my gosh.
The tour is an hour and a half to almost 2 hours long, because I like to give them the money worth, you know. So we go to the National Cemetery where the 51st Regiment is buried. Those are the dead bones of the 19 Black soldiers that were lost, but they found their bones. And so they were reinterred there at the National Cemetery. And then after that, we head on back to the park, to the Gullah Festival Park. But yeah, that's the tour. That's just some of it.
Wow, just the sum of it. One day I hope to get a tour. It's like, for those of you who don't know, everyone who participates with the Gullah Festival is a volunteer. So that weekend, we're always working in a particular area for the Gullah Festival. Like Reba does the tours. I work with the vendors. So I can't go on a tour while the festival's going on. So this is it's not news to me because we've spoken about what people see before, but I would love to go on one of these tours one day. You've got to take me, Reba. And one thing you did mention, you mentioned the Praise House.
Yes.
And so I wanted to do this before I forget. On Netflix now, there is a special running called High on the Hog, a Netflix special, and it's really good. It's very informative. However, there was one segment that there was a gentleman in a praise house, and he made a statement that was it was erroneous. He said that you got people here, like you got like the Gullah Festival learning, like trying to learn Gullah, about Gullah, and that is just far from fact. We started the Gullah Festival because we wanted to educate people about the culture. So, like I said, the special is amazing. Talks about the food and how it came from, one area to where it is now into the Low Country. But the part when he said that in the praise house, it just struck me a little because I'm like, oops, that's not accurate. The Gullah Festival is not trying to learn about it. We are it, and we wanted to just educate the masses. So when you do hear that, and I do encourage you to watch it, it's a very good Netflix special. But just when you hear that, I need you to understand that little part right there is not factual, because you can go to the originalgullahfestival.org website and you will see the history of the inception of the Gullah Festival and why it was created, as you already heard Charlotte speak about. So I just wanted to put that in there. And and also now we're headed to Duran, who's going to talk about I don't want to get it wrong, the Black Inventions Museum. Okay. And also, just to piggyback on the fact that I said she's the voice that you hear when you call the original Gullah Festival, that phone that you heard ring, hey, we're live, things happen. But I'm going to acknowledge it because I know some of you are sitting there like, didn't they know they were going live? Anyway, yes, but that phone rings off the hook day in and day out, especially this weekend. And so that is the voice that you hear on the other end. So I just wanted to say that's that phone ringing. But we did take it off the hook, didn't we, Miss Westbrook?
Yes, we did.
Okay. So go on and tell us about the Black Inventions Museum.
Okay. And that's funny you should say that because the phone rings day and night, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't matter. But the Black Inventions Museum used to come in every year. Salah would bring it in, fly from California with it to set it up for the Gullah Festival. And she knew that Mama really liked the museum. It is a huge museum. It's a traveling museum. And
okay, hold on. Who is she? You said she knew.
Salah.
Lady Salah Shabazz,
Salah Shabazz. And when she passed, she left it in her will that Mama be given first rights to purchase the museum.
Okay, for those of you who don't know, when she says Mama, she's referring to Rosalie Pazan?
Yes.
Was a
Rosalie Pazan. So we purchased the museum. So we have it. We have not been traveling with it like we should, but it is available. We have more than 300 storyboards. We have
Charlotte, the and
artifacts.
Reebok. Okay.
We have artifacts, and we have some replicas. And so there's a lot, I mean, a wealth of information.
Mhm.
I don't know how many of you remember years ago, there used to be a segment on the radio, little known Black history facts, and they were taken from this museum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this museum is not a little fly by night unknown, it's well known. And now we have to update because we have a lot of contributors. Our Black people have been doing things and they need to be included in the museum. So we have changed the name to Black Inventors and Achievers
Okay.
because we have a lot of Black achievers. So there's some that we would like to include. For instance, the Dr. Kizzy Corbett, who worked on the Moderna vaccine.
Yeah.
You know, we would love to include her in that because that's, I mean, it's just there's nothing that we do that you can't say a Black person helped to do that. The street lights, the computers, I mean, everything, everyday things. And you don't think about it,
Mhm.
but if we were to remove all of the inventions of the Black people from the United States, honey,
Yes.
we'd be messed up.
Mhm.
So it's really a very important part of our history. And we have information to back it up. We have patent numbers, we have everything to back it up. It's not hearsay. So we do have information to back up everything that's in the museum. It's just a wealth of information. And
It
it's
sounds
available.
like it. It
It's
sounds like it. I'm glad that we have access to it. So thank you for telling us about that because I'm sure many people didn't even know that it existed.
yes.
Now we're moving on to Pazanta. Okay, so now listen, for people who do not know, or they're tuning in because they want to learn more about Gullah and what it is or what it means, tell us a little bit about that, Pazanda. What can you tell us today?
Okay, well, Gullah is the language, of course, like Reba mentioned, culture. Well, Reba, Charlotte, and Rand mentioned culture and food and crafts and arts and so forth. The language itself, I'm going to talk about how the language was given birth, okay, to the Low Country area. And it was given birth because the European colonizers targeted West Africa because of their technology, their agriculture, and so forth. And they saw what they wanted to have built in the United States. And they chose the West Africans to oversee the other Africans that they picked up in Europe and just in Bermuda. They picked them up in the European countries and so forth. They had the West Africans to oversee them and teach them. And this is why the Gullah language is based in the West African culture plus English, because the West Africans had to be able to communicate to the other Africans that were picked up in the European countries. Okay, and so Gullah language was given birth back in the 13th century. Okay, so that the Africans were able to communicate with each other no matter where they were coming from. But I wanted to share some rich history about the specifics as to why the European colonizers targeted West Africa, the West Africans. And as I mentioned before when I was on your show before, but I got my notes, so but anyway, the urban cities of West Africa covered 2.5 million square miles, which is the size of the United States. There were 200 to 300 cities in West Africa. okay, in the country. They had walls that were around, that surrounded these cities that were 40 to 50 feet high. Some large cities would cover an area the size of Texas. And they also had single castles covering 640 acres. The cities had farms, they had lakes, storage buildings, stables that had over 1,000 horses, donkeys, and camels. They also had paved streets up to 300 feet wide. This was in Africa. This is before the transatlantic slave trade, okay? And imagine the colonizers coming in and they're seeing paved streets up to 300 feet wide. They had 2-story buildings in Africa with glass windows. They had stores, they had colleges, universities, churches. They had no police, they had no jails, and the cities were built to reflect the laws of God, nature, and man. So the people who ran the cities, their idea of governing their cities was, they said that the family was the foundation of African cities, and the family served to influence the behavior and control the citizens of the cities. Okay, so these cities were part of Sierra Leone. We've heard a lot about Sierra Leone, okay? Benin, Ghana, Liberia, and the Ivory Coast. There were also empires before the transatlantic slave trade. There were Mali, Bornu, Maasai, and the Asante empires. They had industries, shipbuilding, metal, textile, commerce, literature, medicine, and they imported and exported their goods to Asia and the Americas. And of course, the Europeans also knew that Africans had already circumvented the earth and they were trading in other countries, okay, before the transatlantic slave trade. The cities had populations in Africa of at least 400,000 people. But when they were invaded by the Europeans in the 13th century, the Europeans invaded the Africans, these empires and these cities, with diseases, alcohol, drugs, forcing them to adopt their religions, and also with military warfare, guns, rockets, and bombs. And so the need for the technology that was going on in the West Africans is why they were targeted. And as I mentioned before, when the cargo ships started picking up Africans, they started picking them up in the European countries, Ireland, England, France, Italy, Spain, Portugal. Then they came to Africa and to the Canary Islands, to South America, Haiti, Barbados, Cuba, then to the Gulf of Mexico, including Louisiana and Alabama, then to the Bahamas, to Florida, Georgia, South, North Carolinas, and then Bermuda. So Gullah was the language that was birthed from the West Africans, who had to teach all of the Africans that were picked up in the European countries to teach them how to build America, so that it could resemble the magnitude, the beauty of the cities that were already built in West Africa. And that's how Gullah was birthed.
That is such an interesting story. You know, just thinking about the journey.
Yeah.
But we still here.
Yeah.
Still here.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's one of the reasons why I love the fact that people are trying to learn about Gullah. They're trying to learn about the culture. And we have places like the Gullah Festival to teach them those things, you know, and now that we have different platforms, we can go to, you know, different populations to just share our knowledge with them, you know, and I'm still learning, you know, I'm not from the area, but I know Gullah is my family, you know, And I think it's interesting to learn that there are a lot of different aspects to the Gullah Geechee culture, you know. And so the more we learn, the better. And I think it's good for younger generations to embrace their culture, you know, so that certain traditions and pieces of education are not forgotten, you know.
Right.
Well, this is the Gullah Festival weekend. Normally, you know, every Memorial Day weekend, we are together at the Henry C. Chambers Waterfront in Beaufort, South Carolina. And I am usually running around getting the vendors together and getting the tent set up and all that. I miss that so much. But that being said, oh, I'm the chair for the vendors. And this summer, we are looking to have a virtual vending event. I think that would just be amazing. And that way our vendors can, you know, kind of be with us, but not with us. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if you are a vendor and you would like to participate in the Gullah Festival virtual vending event, email vendor@originalgullahfestival.org. Okay. vendor@originalgullahfestival.org. And before we end this call has been amazing, but I also wanted to just remind people that we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And we are able to put on the entertainment that you saw in the video yesterday. And we're able to bring you different speakers and just give you all of the things that we know will be beneficial to you in our efforts to educate you, you know, about Gullah. But we know it takes funding, and not having had the festival for 2 years, we could really use some of your donations, you know, your support. There is a tab on the Gullah Festival website, and you could donate there, and any amount would actually be appreciated. So let me see what else. Oh, there's a store on the Gullah Festival website, so you can look at the items that we have there, and the Gullah Griot blog, written by Kenyana Briscoe. She writes the blog for the Gullah Festival. But I'm just so grateful that you all came, you know, to listen to us today. And we just thank you for remaining loyal. You know, I did a little video with Charlotte here last night, and after chat about the video that we saw. But in it, I mentioned, you know, sometimes, you know, it's out of sight, out of mind. And we don't want that to happen. You know, it was beyond our control that, you know, being able to have a festival for 2 years. That's a long time to not be together with people. People start making other plans for Memorial Day weekends to come, and we don't want that to happen. We want you to know that our intention is to be together in 2022. And, you know, as if the good Lord sees fit, we will be. But until then, we will just keep bringing you information, different panels and panelists, so that you can stay informed, that our vendors can get involved, and we can kind of do some things differently. You know, it's a different time. So now we have to just do some things differently. But thank you so much for joining me today. Again, we have Duran, Pazanta, Reba, Charlotte, and that's it. I just want to say again, thank you, everyone. And another thing that I wanted to say, because it's Saturday, on Sundays, and I missed this too, we usually have our Hour of Power worship service. That is so beautiful on the waterfront. And I know it was mentioned in the video as well, the Hour of Power worship service. And I just can't wait till we can do that again. You know, because unfortunately, you know, we weren't able to have any activities this weekend because we're not allowed to be in person. But next year, Lord willing, like I said, we will meet you on that waterfront.
Yes.
It's always the weekend leading into Memorial Day, which next year should be May 28th, 29th, and 30th, I believe, in 2022 at the Beaufort Henry C. Chambers Waterfront Park.
Yes, but until then, you will be hearing from us. Okay, just stay tuned. Follow us on our social media platforms. We have a YouTube channel. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram. follow us, look for the red and white logo, and stay informed. Okay, peace and blessings, everyone.
Peace
Bye-bye.
and blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.